This last day or so has really shaken me, and I am at a point where I can't be silent anymore. I'm not perfect. This world clearly isn't perfect, and I'm not going to have the perfect things to say, and I'm not going to be standing up for perfect people. But what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday, what happened to Brian Thompson in broad daylight in Midtown Manhattan, and what happened to Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, I don't know that the three assassins, attempted assassin in Trump's case, thankfully, shared any ideology with each other. I don't know that they were motivated by the same things. I don't know that they wanted the same goals. I don't know anything about those three individuals who committed those three individual acts. But I do know that I have seen a response from a distinct but consistent and sizable portion of the left that has responded to each of those three acts similarly, in a way that is celebratory, in a way that is gloating, in a way that calls for more, in a way that declares victory. And I can't sit with that. And I know, and I'm reckoning with the fact that Charlie Kirk himself and Donald Trump himself had their own responses to what happened to the deplorable violence against Paul Pelosi years ago. And I agree that we need to condemn all forms of political violence. And I'll admit, and this was apparently controversial to admit on Twitter, but I'll admit for my own part that seeing things like this happen and being upset by these acts of violence, not to mention the shooting of Minnesota lawmakers, not to mention the attack by a transgender individual against Catholic children, not to mention the stabbing of the Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte. Just these three alone are enough to stir up something within me that wants to respond violently. That's a temptation. That's there. That's a desire. I'd be lying to you if I told you that that thought wasn't on my mind, wasn't in my heart. But I understand that responding to evil with evil won't result in good, that participating in the problem will not bring about the solution. I don't know if the solution is marches and sit-ins. I don't know if the solution is I need to run for office. I don't know if the solution, I don't know. I do think the solution is, if they are found guilty, the death penalty for Luigi Mangione and for the shooter, not out of any sense of political disagreement, not because I don't like them as people, but because it's just and because it's what these actions deserve when they're carried out. That's what I think. That's how I feel. And again, I'm just an imperfect man commenting on imperfect people and imperfect events. I do want to mention I'm a full-time Lyft driver here in Massachusetts. And I remember, you can take this or leave this, I'm just one guy, if you want to believe the story or if you don't. I remember after the attempt, the assassination of Brian Thompson, getting a ride in downtown Boston, going out to Brookline, these two women. Listen, we're always listening. For what that's worth, your rideshare driver is listening in on your conversations, whether they seem like it or not. And they were talking to each other about this nonprofit that they worked for and how they were trying to get company time for a trip to Oaxaca and get that covered, while also complaining about how Trump was cutting the budget to nonprofits like theirs. And they were talking about a connection they had who worked with Senator Elizabeth Warren, and within the Democratic Party, within her staff. I didn't quite understand, but had a these two women had a connection with a man who had a connection with Elizabeth Warren. And so again, secondhand, third hand, take this or leave this. But I remember hearing them talk about the fact that Senator Elizabeth Warren did not want to release a statement condemning Luigi Mangione, condemning the violence against Brian Thompson. And so I perfectly understand that Charlie Kirk, and it's embarrassing to me, it's a lot like David Bowie. I didn't listen to his music until he died. I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was 2 days ago. And I'm not going to have heard what he has to say and who he is and how he feels and what he thinks until now that he's gone. I just know that he was killed for being a conservative. And I just can't be silent anymore because of that. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I voted for Kamala Harris. It was literally the day after the election that I was like, what the hell am I doing? What is this party doing? The way that Democrats and the media responded to Donald Trump's victory, calling him an undemocratic racist one day and then undermining his democratic victory by blaming it on misogynistic Latino men literally the next day. I said, I can't do this anymore. I was already getting concerned with the extreme leftism. And listen, I'm not here. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what gender you identify as. Live your life. I don't care if you can't take your baby to term. It's your body. It's your choice. It's your life. I don't care about any of that. I care about how we interact with each other on the public scene. I don't care what God you pray to. I don't care. When I'm sitting in my own home, I'm free to think whatever I want about you, and you're free to think whatever you want about me. But when it comes to the public square and how we interface with each other as Americans, as a country, it can't keep going on like this. These things can't keep happening, and I can't stay quiet anymore. So I'm going to start speaking up and speaking out on Twitter at NicholasEthan97, here, A Real Boon on YouTube, and I want to get on Twitch as well and do that some more. I don't care if 10 people total watch every video that I make combined. I need to speak. I can't be silent because a man lost his voice, and I feel like now I have to use mine. So I'm Nick Boonstra. If you do watch this, thank you for listening. I'll talk to you soon.